Hey guys, welcome back for another video. So I'm starting on a major project today. Well, sort of major, kind of medium-sized project. We've got, I don't know if you've seen some of my other videos, we've got some land out here in the country and we've got 2 dogs and I've got an invisible fence system. And when we installed the invisible fence, I wanted to maximize, you know, the amount of yard that the dogs can run in. So it goes clear up on the outside of the mowed yard by the timber, actually into the timber a little bit, across the driveway way at the top, and then it goes along our privacy fence, goes all the way back around my shop, and then comes back to the timber there. And then it's, you know, I've got it about 5 feet inside the timber all the way around. So they've got, I don't know, that's probably, it's like an 1.5 acres, maybe something like that, that they can run, which is great. But these guys, great dogs, super friendly, they love everybody, but they're really protective of our yard. And they spend a lot of time up there in the top of the driveway when people are, you know, neighbors are riding 4-wheelers or dogs are running, people walking dogs. We've got, let's see, 2, 4, so we've got 6 of their dogs in this cul-de-sac. So there's a lot going on up there, and our dogs get worked up a lot up there, and they just hang out either over right along the privacy fence or at the top of the yard. And I'm to the point where I'm ready to kind of reduce their reign a little bit here, just because when they're back here closer to the house, their anxiety level is way, you know, they're calm. It's just when they get right up there by all the excitement that they get really kind of worked up. So just to keep everybody happy, including us, our dogs, and our neighbors, I've decided that I'm going to go ahead and move our invisible fence. So my plan, I may see if I can show this to you on an aerial. It might make a little bit more sense. But what I'm going to do, I should mention this will be my 3rd time doing this. First time I installed it, the DIY fence kits you get come with a super chintzy, a lot of them come with a super chintzy wire that you actually bury. It's like, I don't know, 18, maybe even 20 gauge wire, so it's super lightweight. So the first time I did it, I kept having problems with breaks in the line at different places, and I had splices, and that was a pain in the butt. So second time when I replaced that, I got good heavy gauge 14 gauge wire, and I've had no problems with that. If you ever do your own invisible fence, I'd highly recommend getting at least 16 gauge or even 14 gauge wire. It's a little more expensive, but it's really tough, and it's not going to break easy if a, you know, little tree limb falls and puts a dent in the ground or some dumb thing like that, or an animal digs or something. So so right now the wire comes out of our house. You can see where the phone box goes in, and there's 2 conduits come down. I've got that invisible fence wire actually shooting through that phone box, and it comes down through one of those conduits. So it comes out here. If you're familiar with these things, there's a twisted pair, and that twisted pair comes out here to this perimeter. So where the twisted pair is, it doesn't shock them. The dogs can run through, and then it goes, you know, left there and right there, and it goes all the way around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and find that wire, and I'm going to bring it up so that on this side, rather than coming, you know, let me orient myself correctly. So coming from the house here, so instead of going out, swinging all the way around the front yard, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a hook here, and I'm going to bring this fence up so that it just tucks out in front of the sidewalk. I originally was actually going to cut the whole front porch and everything off, but we like to sit out here and the dogs like to hang out with us. So I'm going to bring it out here probably 6 or 8 feet in the front of the sidewalk, so they'll be able to get that far. And then it's going to wrap around, and my hope is that I can keep them so they can have full access to at least a concrete driveway. I'm going to try to dig this gravel here in front of the driveway. This is packed. It's been driven on for 13, 14 years. And there's big, heavy 3-inch stone as a base layer under that. So I don't know how difficult that's going to be. If that turns into a real nightmare, plan B is to come back and I'll clean out this saw cut and I'll run it through there. and then they'll only have access to 2/3 of the concrete. I'd like them to be able to have this whole space, so we'll see how this goes. So from there, it's gonna go around. I'm gonna hug the edge of the gravel here. They'll no longer have access to any of the gravel driveway. And then I'm gonna come right to the edge of my shop, and I'm gonna cut in here. You can see I've been digging along here already. I'm gonna bury the wire right along the edge of the shop, wrap it around. So essentially what that's doing is making it so that when they, their boundary.
All right, guys, so the battery in my mic went dead right here, so I'll just throw in a little narration to fill in the blanks. But basically, I'm saying that I'm going to run the new wire around my building here, and I'm going to come out this side. Right now, the dogs come around the back, especially the male, and he comes over here behind me and barks at the neighbors, and I can't see him from the house, and I don't like that. So it's going to come to the corner of the building, then I'm going to come down to this area where I'm pointing, and that's where I'm actually going to splice into the existing fence. So it'll cut straight across from the corner of the building down there, kind of where that pile of wood is or where that deer target is, and then it'll hook up to the fence that they're accustomed to in the backyard. And this just kind of shows, I think I'm talking a little bit here about that they like to run back here, and they can get way over there close to that tree line over there, and I don't like that at all because I can't see what they're doing. And the neighbors are back there playing on the trampoline and things, and just there's no reason for our dogs to be back there behind that building.
That is not easy, but it is doable, so that's good. I definitely think it'll be better to go lower on the concrete slab. Right there, that's what I'm going to eliminate by bringing them back here. He's running behind my shop now. He won't be able to go back there anymore. She's going to be stuck right here. This tool, I forget what these are called. Somebody tell me what this thing is called. But I found this in the house I'm working on right now, and I got it because it worked good for cutting tree roots when I'm taking stumps out. But this thing worked excellent for cutting trench in the hard dirt over there that I don't know how I would have gotten through it actually without that. I don't have any other tool that would have penetrated that. Would have hit up a trencher or something. And I had to, what I was using that pickaxe thing for, I had to chip in about 8 or 10 feet into the yard, because right underneath the grass I found is, I mentioned before that we put 3-inch limestone down as a base under this driveway, and it's all over the place over there. So I didn't want to just run this wire, even though it's good insulated wire. I don't want to just run this with all those big rocks. So I kept chipping with that pickaxe thing until I got to the point where it's pretty much just dirt. So now I should be good. I'm going to use a lawn edger to do the rest of this. Before I cut that, I'll show you over here real quick so this is where I use that pickaxe to chip way out here, but it's this great big, this is the stone that's under there, big chunks. That's the base under my driveway. And we got a little sloppy apparently, and they're way out here, so that's where I was chipping out with that thing. Now I'm gonna rent probably tomorrow a sidewalk edger, a gas-powered sidewalk edger, and I'll just make a little trench over that way. All right, I got that pull wire all the way through there. I'm gonna go ahead and bury this thing. I just remembered, I think that thing's called a Maddox. Yeah, I think it's a Maddox. See you guys in the morning. All right guys, so it's the next day. This morning finished digging around the shop over there. So as far as spade work, I think I'm pretty well done with that. I had to go to town this morning, so I stopped at Home Depot and I picked up a lawn edger. This is what I'm going to use to cut in around the grass. And I've got my spool of wire set up. It's nice to get it set up on something can use as an axle, so it'll just spin off there easily. So I just used some jack stands and a chunk of steel rod that I had. But I'm gonna start here, and I'm gonna start pulling through this conduit that I buried into the driveway last night, and just take a bunch of slack up and start working my way around the shop. And then eventually this loose spool, this will all just get buried in the ground. I don't have any more conduit to go through. Conduit creates kind of challenges when you're pulling this stuff, because you can only pull so far through it. So you got to kind of, you know, be mindful of your path here. But I think this is a good place to start. So I'll take this loose. I'll tie onto my pull wire, and hopefully I can pull that through there fairly easily. All right, that should be good to pull it through. There it is. Now I'm going to pull, I've got more conduit to go through under the shop there. So what I might do is I might pull enough wire, just start pulling it all the way around the whole path down to where I'm going to splice it in, and then I'll have it all loose, and then I can start kind of pulling it in through the conduit, because and I can just sort of spool it up in the yard here. I think between this conduit and then once I get in that one over there, I think things might start to get a little bit tight, and I don't want to have to pull too hard on it, so I think I might just pull myself a bunch of slack to work with. Alright, so there's my path. Come up there where I already pulled it. We're going to come along the yard here. This eventually, I want this to be conduit. Obviously there's gravel here, but I'd like to someday have a sidewalk come around here, so I want to make sure there's conduit there. Tie in, I've got a little bit of an elevation change there, and then around the shop. Gravel on this side. Like I mentioned before, I don't think I showed you this side, but there's gravel over here too, so I already dug that in. That's what I dug this morning. So this might be a little challenging getting all this long run. This is like 70 feet or something between front and the side, but I'll get it. Okay, so this time, instead of using a pull wire, my plan is just to basically break it down, pull it through each section, and then reconnect as I go. Okay, that's going really easy. I think I made it all the way to that 90 there. That's something you could never do with the chintzy 20 gauge wire that comes with the DIY sets. You gotta have this heavier weight stuff. But I'm pretty sure I'm gonna find it right here. All right, I'm all the way out the other end. I can see it. So I'm just gonna keep pulling this until I take up all this slack, and then I've got another 90 to do in the other end of this one. All right, so at this point, I won't be able to see this on camera because it's too far away, but pulling through this conduit, I'm pulling all the way from over there in the yard where I looped it up. So this shop is 36 by 32, so if my math is right, I'm actually pulling this through 104 feet of conduit, and it's pulling beautifully, beautifully. Really happy. I thought there'd be too much friction to pull that through. So once again, guys, I cannot recommend enough. If you do this, get a heavier gauge wire. Everything works easier, and it's just, you're not gonna have problems, you know, with it. So I'll do a quick run around here. This back here, I parked tractor implements back here, so I set box blades and scrapers and stuff, so I don't want to take any chance with that. It's back here along this whole dog kennel. At some point I got to landscape this and do something here, so when I get back here and disturb, I don't want to have any problems. And then I already showed you this over here, gravel. And of course the front is gravel. So by doing this, going all the way around my shop, I've made it so the dogs will be able to come to this point. They'll be able to go in my walk-in door, but they won't be able to go out past the corner of the shop over here. No more of them running back behind there and barking at the neighbors and me not knowing and worrying about them busting through the fence or something and you know, causing trouble back there. So I'll keep pulling this through. Down in that vicinity down there is where I'm going to pull to. That's where I'm going to put my splice. So I'm going to make sure I got enough wire pulled all the way here. Then I'll pull the wire all the way around the house to the other side where I'm going to splice in, and then I can start digging my trench with the lawn edger. Okay, so now we're to the very tedious, monotonous part of this job. That's inserting this wire. And the easiest thing that I found is one of these paint sticks for a 5-gallon bucket of paint. All right, so now that I've got the wire pulled out, the next thing I need to do is try to identify where the existing wire is so I can tap into it. And I've got one of our dog collars, and I've got some marking paint, and I'm just gonna basically just gonna hold the collar close to the ground and move forward until it beeps. It should be right around here. Yeah, right there. And I've got I sprayed marking paint all over myself. That was not cool. Our collar system has two settings actually. One of the settings you can make it so that the warning tone doesn't start until you get right to the wire, which makes it a little bit easier to identify the wire. So I've marked the existing path of the fence, as you can see. When I pulled this new wire, I pulled quite a bit of extra because what I'd really like to do, so this would be the minimum spot that I'd want to splice into, but I've got this area because of the way our driveway comes downhill and then kind of funnels into the yard here. We get a lot of runoff, and it's kind of dug down into the dirt just a little bit here from that runoff, and it's actually exposed the existing wire. So that's our existing dog fence, and that's been out of the ground for a long time. And I am always concerned about hitting it with either hooking it with a lawnmower or hit it with a tractor or something. So I'm actually going to, and I pulled enough new wire. The new wire's laying on the ground over here, so I can actually get past that spot. So I'm gonna see if I can get this loose, pull it up, and I'm probably actually gonna make my splice back over here past that spot. And then the new wire, when I come across here, I'm actually gonna run a little piece of conduit. I'll dig down below, you know, the little runoff spot here, so I'm down below it. But then if it ever, you know, digs that dirt out again, then at least it'll be covered by conduit and not having exposed wires. So I'm gonna do a little bit of back digging here and try to get this existing fence exposed. And I don't know, I'm just kind of curious. This has been in the ground for quite a while, so I don't know how easy this will pull up. I suppose it depends on how deep it is. Ooh, yeah, that sod's got that wire in there pretty tight, so I'll tug on it a little bit and see if I can get it out without, I don't want to break the wire. I guess if I break it over here, it doesn't matter because I'm going to splice over here. I just have to be careful on this side, but I'm going to see if I can get some of this pulled up, and then we'll work on getting it spliced in. So back over here on this side of the house where the fence actually comes out of the house. So it comes out under this landscaping, and then that twisted pair comes across to right here. And I knew roughly where this was because I hit this when I was doing some landscaping last year, and so I put this kind of temporary patch in here, and it's held up. Haven't had any problems with it, which is surprising. But anyway, so this twisted pair comes out, and you can see where I've marked the, you know, did the collar technique and found where the fence was going off. And basically, you can see that it kind of comes to a point here. I don't know how well you can see it on camera, but it kind of comes to a point. So it goes up that way around the top of the yard, and then it goes down that way to the bottom of the yard. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna finish trenching where I stopped yesterday. I'm gonna trench down here, and I'm gonna pick it up right here, and because this is where the splice is right now from solid wire onto twisted pair. So I'm gonna put my splice right here, and then it'll just continue on around the backyard the way it is existing. So I just have to trench in, not very far here, another 8 feet or so, and then I'll have my wires exposed. And actually, before I do that, I'll probably dig this wire up, make sure that I can locate it. Yeah, let's do that right now. that's tight. All right, had to grab a spade, but so here's that twisted pair. Here's my waterproof connectors, and this is where I tie into my fence. So right here is where my splice is going to be to the new fence. Trench a little bit. I'll go ahead and get the wire cut, get it spliced in, and we'll be off to the races. All right, so time to make these permanent connections here. And I got another set of waterproof connections basically. And if you're not familiar with these things, they are, they're just full of grease. Basically, I think it's just like a dielectric grease. So I think I'll use the two new ones here, and then I will reuse one of these down below where I have to make my other splice. And I'd put this together temporarily, but we're gonna go ahead and make a permanent connection here. I've got the power unit turned off inside the house. Make sure I give a real good twist on these wires. I don't want to have to come back and fix this at any point. And I actually don't like the wire nuts that they provide. They're too small, so I'm going to reuse these other ones, and I'm going to fill that full of dielectric grease. And that grease just helps to keep make it a waterproof connection, watertight. It does make everything slippery though. All right, once you've got your connections good, kind of straighten these out, and then take these waterproof lids. I'm going to put, never have too much grease. Slide it over and close the cap. All right, now when I bury this, I'm going to make sure that I keep these waterproof caps pointing up, so there's no chance of moisture working their way down inside of them. Just a little extra insurance. Make sure your hole is nice and deep. And then just to be on the safe side, what I like to do, which may be overkill, but I'll probably actually take a picture in relation to my landscaping walls here, and then I'll probably take a quick measurement from the landscaping to where this is at. That way, just in case I ever have any problems and I need to come back and find this splice, I can come back and find it relatively easily, because, you know, by spring, this will all be, I'll never be able to find it again just by looking at the ground. So it just kind of helps me future-proof it a little bit. Camera blew over. The winds today are ridiculous. They're saying winds up to possibly 60 mile an hour tonight, which I'm not looking forward to. Just like the other one, stick it in. And bury it this side up, nice and deep. All right, guys, so that's it. It's done. I backfilled, had a couple little trenches there where I came into the driveway there and over next to the shop. As you can see, I've got flags out. The wind is crazy today, so I'll kind of show you the front yard, but the wind's gonna blow me away. Oh, actually, not too bad right now. So there you can see all the way across the front, tied in back there. Back over here, we come across the front of the driveway. Hopefully the flags make it easier than all my random pointing that I've been doing earlier in this video. But see the flags go up, corner of the shop. They pop right back in the corner of the shop. And I didn't put any flags in the backyard because that's all existing fence. So the dogs they don't have anything to learn on that, so that'll be easy. So now it's time to get the dogs out and do a little bit of training with them. So one of two things: either this is going to go easy because they're used to an electric fence and they understand the concept, or it's going to be really hard because for 2 years and 3 years they've been having full run of the front yard and we're cutting them off. So this might be a little bit of an adjustment period here. So anyway, I'm going to do that now. I'm not going to mess with the camera because it's going to be a rodeo, I'm sure. So appreciate you guys watching. See you in the next video.